Hey everyone, happy Saturday. Thank you for being here today, especially as I kind of flip flopped a little bit. Last week, I'm like, I think it's going to be on Friday, but we are here at our usual time. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you bearing with me. Let's see who's in here. We have Hexagon Contractor, Vision Null, Godfather J6, Hexander, My Online Ghost, Gen Hex. So nice seeing you all. Thank you guys. It's always nice seeing you every Saturday evening. And I see some names here who haven't been with us for a while. So welcome back. Thank you. Yeah, I had some plans to go somewhere tonight and to a concert. And I just, okay, I mean, first of all, the way things are going with inflation and gas doubling, it's a little hard to handle. So I'm like, I don't, the investing in concert tickets kind of wasn't really appealing at the moment. And then on top of that, I feel like, these past 2 years of, lockdowns and rules and restrictions and everything have kind of like sucked out the motivation out of me to do a lot of things. Um, in good and bad ways. Like I used to love concerts and being out and doing, you know, whatever exciting summer thing was happening and now just so many things don't interest me anymore. And yeah, it's got its good and bad because on the other hand, when that happens, you kind of refocuses you other places. But when you think about it, because I have a lot of other friends who feel the same way, it's kind of like, was this an intentional rewiring of our behavior so that if you look at it from a World Economics Forum standpoint, where they don't want people to travel, they want people to be working drones in their house on their computers or whatever. They want to minimize that because of quote unquote carbon emissions while they go around the world on their private jets. So I'm like, is this a way of modifying our behavior because you keep us in for 2 years? Our interests start changing. Because at first it was hard. It was hard not being able to go to shows and events and everything. And it was kind of sad. But then now, and I kept, during lockdown dreaming of the day where I'd be able to go back out to a show. And then now I'm like, I don't even have the motivation to go in my car and drive and then pay money to go into this place when my gas bill doubling has been challenging. So you really see like the, I mean, and not to sound all conspiracy like, but this is the show, I guess, right? We kind of do discuss conspiracies. It's kind of like, yeah, you see it happening, behavior modification through inflation and through locking us down and just changing our motivation and interest. And I feel like I get tired a lot earlier than I used to because of this change in our behavior, in our activities. Like I used to be a night owl and I am tired at like 11, 12 o'clock now. So, but then it's like, oh, are we letting them win? But you know what? I'm using it for good. I'm refocused myself. If I was out doing all the concerts and fun stuff and shows, then I wouldn't be live streaming. So, it's got its good and bad. What do you guys think? Have you guys been having have you felt that lockdown reshift of our behaviors and activities? And like I said, I completely blame this on an engineering of our behavior by the WEF. Katie Hopkins has been speaking about this on her Instagram. I totally recommend following her. Whatever you think about her, just throw aside and just go check out her videos. It's really interesting because she's been talking a lot about how a lot of the travel issues that are happening and flight cancellations and all this and all that are a ruse kind of to make traveling so difficult and so unpleasant that people just say it's not worth it. I'm not going to do it anymore. So, hey, Crypto Heartbeat, nice to see you in here. So, thanks, guys, for being here tonight. So, I thought tonight I've touched on it here and there, but I wanted to spend maybe a whole show talking with you guys about disclosure. But beside disclosure, Project Bluebeam. Because if you look at the two of them together, you can see how they can very easily tie together. Like one is priming us for another. So I thought we could dig into that a little bit, dive into that, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that topic too. So hey, Tin Top, nice to see you. So you've never stopped. Your construction work doubled, if not tripled. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, a lot of industries have done really well through this. it's kind of it's weird because it's like, well, there's been so many closures of small businesses and people going out of businesses, but then there's been a boom in other places. So, and it really, when you look at it, it kind of feels like a reshuffling of our economy. And I think the thing is, it could be regional because, like, in terms of not stopping, like for me, my life and everything going on did stay the same. But in terms of entertainment, in New York, options, everything kind of being shut down, that part of my life stopped. And then that part of my motivation and interest was reset. And I completely have lost interest in so many of the things that I've loved to do. Like, I typically would be so upset to miss this show, my favorite band. And this time, and I'm kind of like, whatever. I don't even care anymore. It's disturbing. And I think that's intentional. But I guess, got to fight to not let them win. But so speaking about disclosure. So Crypto Heartbeat and I believe, have spoken about that at one point with Elizondo. I'm drawing a blank on his first name, something Elizondo, and his role in disclosure from the government. And Manast, that name sounds familiar. Is that Serge Manast, the guy with Project Bluebeam? Yeah, which is exactly, we're going to be talking about him tonight. Sorry, as you can tell, my focus in the live chat. I love to talk, but I love the live chat so much. So so I completely yeah. I keep hopping. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So many small businesses, especially here, like nothing feels the same, and it does not feel like doesn't feel like it's going to return anytime soon. In New York. New York ain't coming back. It's sad, but and I think unfortunately a lot of places aren't, but that's what they want. Alrighty. So disclosure. So as we know, up until recently, the government has always denied, knowledge of UFOs, which they don't call UFOs anymore. They call UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. So for all those years, like, you couldn't talk about UFOs if you were, like, in the government and you tried to report something to them. If you were in the military, they would kind of laugh you off and be like, send you to a psychologist, or like, no, what's wrong with you? No, that's not that. That's something else. And you've heard the jokes like, oh, it was the weather balloon, it was swamp gas, it was this, it was that, and there's always been the government denying knowledge of any type of aerial phenomenon or UFOs going on. Even in the X-Files starting, doesn't that thing flash across the front of the credits, the government denies knowledge, right? That's always been the thing. And I guess they call it the truth embargo. So for like 75 years, the government always pretended that nothing was going on. No. That's not real. No, it was a weather balloon. It was this. No, you need to go to, since you reported that, you need to go to psychological counseling. There's something, and they would try to ruin you and discredit your name. But all of a sudden, they're like, no, we do know something's going on, but we don't know what. But here are the videos. Here's what's happening. And they and they've been trickling stuff to the New York Times, which to me is a red flag. All right. I know that that's like what they call, a newspaper of record. So sometimes if you want big news, you go to them. But as we've seen, the behavior of the Times lately within the past 5 years, it's very much in bed with the government. So I think it's interesting that the government would choose to be disclosing stuff to the New York Times. So that's my first red flag. But then when we look at disclosure, supposedly the truth embargo ended last year. And they kind of gave us a little treat. It was very underwhelming, but they're like, here are these videos of these things we saw in the sky, are some fighter jets, and we will admit we don't know what they are. So here you go, common folk. Here's these little breadcrumbs. I hope you're happy. Look, we admitted the truth to you. So I felt like, it was kind of like placating us, but it also felt like breadcrumbing us to get us ready. Because when has the government ever acted in our best interest throughout history, besides maybe when it was founded in the 1700s? they don't just like randomly say, "Listen, guys, I think you're gonna like this piece of info. Let's give it to humanity. Let's do something good with it." Like that doesn't happen. So the fact that they're releasing this information to us, I'm like, why do you care enough to be like, let's show the general public this? There has to be some sort of motive behind it, especially because if we look at like the government programs during the Cold War, their goals in the Cold War was they wanted to harvest this tech from this unidentified aerial phenomenon and use it as a weapon. And they were also wondering, oh, is this Soviet tech? What is this? Oh, and let's, once they figured out it wasn't Soviet, they're like, let's get it to it first and let's use it as a weapon. So we are going to go do that. And, of course, they kept that truth to themselves because they, they didn't want to share their weapons tech or the fact that they might be getting this weapons tech from these UFOs, from these UAPs. So it started like that. And I guess now because, the Cold War's over and they have nothing else to do, they're like, all right, let's release what we have. That's okay. So that's where we're at right now. And again, like I said, that is very suspicious to me because I don't see why they would give us anything. And it's not like, oh, they want our help. Maybe if they release these things, people will come forward and, give some info on it because I don't believe that because anytime anybody's reported something to the government about this, they either, take the info and you never hear from them again, or it's swept aside, it's hidden, and then they discredit the people. But they put their files away somewhere. So I look at it as, I sit back and I look at it as what are they doing and why are they doing it? And what are their intentions behind this? And when you start looking at it this way, like I said, it feels like a breadcrumbing. They're priming us. They want to get the ideas in our head so that they sit there and we were kind of meditating on it like, oh, okay, this is a possibility now. It's not fake. The government knows something. So we have this, and now it's in the public's mind, the general public. All right. And it's, and it's not a crazy thing anymore. Like the UFO believers used to be the psychos. Oh no, it's not, because now the government says it's okay to believe in UFOs. Okay. So, and again, like we said, they don't act in our best interest. So it's not like they want to release the tech, this amazing discovery so that humanity can be enlightened by it. I feel like they're going to do something with it and they're going to lead us somewhere with it. And this is where Project Bluebeam comes into play. But let me catch up on the chat for a moment. Exactly. Yes. And this is where, this is where I feel like Project Blue Book comes into play. The disclosure feels like a cover up for the next step because they're not kindly disclosing it to the common people. Because it seems pretty clear that there's been many other scientific discoveries that are not disclosed for us. If you believe in the corruption of the pharmaceutical industry, which many of us do, there's a belief that there are cures for cancer and a lot of these diseases, but it's being held back from us, by the government and by the industry because, being sick is a moneymaker. So, there's constant evidence of these constant cover-ups, so I feel like, this type of thing, they're not going to disclose unless they need to disclose for something. And even what they're disclosing, it's like they're kind of just breadcrumbing us. And I find it interesting to change over from UFO to UAP. So UFO, would be unidentified flying object. It would be a physical object that's flying around. Now UAP becomes unidentified aerial phenomenon. Okay, so something we're seeing in the sky, but maybe it's not a physical object. It's just some sort of phenomenon in the sky. And I feel like this, and I'm going to have to come back into this, but just keep that distinction in your mind, because I think this ties into Project Bluebeam is a way of them to kind of lie around stuff, but maybe grab their, but feel like, they're getting out of their lie, their quote unquote good karma points by not lying to us. But sorry, let me get back to this chat. So I believe disclosure requires a multidimensional dialect just as a delivery method in order for the general public to even conceive of the idea of ETs. And it's interesting when you say multidimensional dialect, because CERN is starting back up I think on July 5th. So CERN And there's some thought, and they're doing it with higher energies than ever. And there's some thought that they're doing this intentionally to open a multidimensional portal. So when you start talking about multidimensional dialects and everything, I'm like, I wonder if the portal is in advance of this or some sort of disclosure. Oh, camo plaid, is that what it is? I thought it was, yeah, I guess little, it's supposed to look bleach stained, but it does look like camo plaid. Thank you. So for example, advanced mathematics, telepathy, or a combination of both. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to put it, because if UFOs indeed are interdimensional, we don't have a way to understand it with our common, with our language, with our skills, with our just common understanding of things. I don't think, yeah, we have the ability to grasp interdimensional things if the dimensions are indeed completely different than what we're like. So yeah, so there would have to be some sort of, there would have to be like almost like an interdimensional Rosetta Stone. So I see what you're saying. That completely makes sense. And now, yeah, for me, I'm like, wondering how CERN ties into all this, because I had seen this video and I have to do some more diving on this. But talking about how CERN is seeking to open a Jacob's Ladder portals that used to exist between Earth and Mars or something like that. So, and that it is trying to be something interdimensional. And if you look at like their rituals, it kind of all falls into place and makes sense, right? So, yeah. So yes, so we are going to get to that. Thank you. So yeah, so like I said, disclosure is, to me, it's priming us for something. Just like, I'm going to use another example when I'm trying to think of how to word it without getting us kicked off of YouTube. Okay, but all this stuff that's happening in these past 2 years. A lot of people like to say, "Oh, it's the mark of the beast. It's the mark of the beast." No, I do not believe it's the mark of the beast, but I believe it's priming everybody mentally for that, for the mark of the beast. So, because as humans, it's kind of like, you need to be we need to be prepped for certain things. We need to get certain ideas in our head. Like if you've ever worked with somebody who has certain needs, like, somebody with dementia or children with certain types of special needs, sometimes you can't just change a situation right away. You have to prep them and get them ready and say, okay, we're going to be doing this in an hour, and okay, soon we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. There's a certain priming that happens in those situations. And as the general public, for the general public, as a whole world, I feel like in order to accomplish their goals, they have to prime us. They have to breadcrumb these ideas into our head, little by little by little, so that so that we follow the trail. Besides the fact that some people believe that they breadcrumb us because our minds would be completely blown by UFOs or whatever, and we can't handle it. So they need to get us ready little by little. But I think it's more of a breadcrumbing so that we follow in the direction they want. Not so much that our minds would be blown, because honestly, at this point, I feel like we deal in the world with so much insanity. Nothing is shocking anymore. And people already have all these wild ideas about spiritualism and aliens in the universe. I don't believe it would be a shock to anybody. So so I don't think, so I believe, we as humans can handle that type of stuff. So I think the breadcrumbing is more so that they can lead us to go and believe in a certain direction that they want. So, and yes, everything is kind of, so we have the outright disclosure that's happening in the New York Times, which again, sus. Like if for me personally, if there was some sort of like, big revelation that was going to happen, if it comes from the government or some sort of government source or somebody funded by the government, it always makes me a little wary. But if all of a sudden you had a bunch of like independent scientists that are working through nonprofits, maybe that are like not funded by the government, and they start raising some sort of alarm or red flag, then I'm going to pay attention. But when, this outright disclosure is coming through our government, is coming through the New York Times, is coming through like you said, discreet disclosure, then I'm suspicious. And it's interesting because yeah, discreet disclosure is priming us, kind of like, in a predictive programming sense, but not, not completely yet. So like every TV show we watch, every movie we watch, books, there are ideas put into there by elites, by the powers that be, to get us accepting of things that are coming our way. I mean, look at Contagion. I think that was like a 2011 release, and our current pandemic, like pretty much, followed a lot of the same patterns, and they even had like vaccine passes and everything in Contagion. um Not to spoil the ending, but and you could look at that as predictive programming. Did they put that out there to get their permission because they believe in karma, and they believe that by getting our permission and doing all these bad stuff, is less bad because they got our permission through the media. So there's, that belief on predictive programming, or is it disclosure? Are they priming us? And to me, I feel like everything is priming, because it's like a frog in boiling water, So there's not the sudden like, oh my gosh, what is the government trying to lead us to do? No, you're just so used to it by the time you realize you're dead. so, but so yeah, and I am with you. We live in wild times, truly unprecedented times, and I think, I mean, you know, uh, I'm kind of mixed on this. I feel like every time kind of had its wild things that go on. Like especially if you look at like the Middle East, like back in like, 3000, 2000 BC and all those societies, I believe they had some wild stuff going on too. So I guess like every era kind of deals with its own thing, but things do seem to be ramping up at an exponential pace at this point. Yeah. And truly, I know it's overused, the fact that people are like, we live in unprecedented times, but I really do think we live in some unprecedented times, especially in terms of with the tech we have gives, and all the secret tech that we don't even know about, because I believe, the elites are way more advanced than we realize. There's a lot more potential for evil than there was, back then. Except back in the olden days, in the ancient days, I think evil was a lot more obvious. And then now it's just so discreet. And, even if you want to go into the fact that we have ruling families in the world that are like planning everything that happens, like that is pretty blatantly evil, but it's like hidden. It's hidden evil. It's secret, because a lot of people don't even believe in those ruling families. So, the most fantastic of these could go to a drone and a satellite-controlled weapons disguised as UFOs to keep masses subjugated. And yes, I agree. I think we totally are going in that direction, and I think that's what disclosure is priming us for. So, Project Bluebeam. I think that's like the biggest name associated with disclosure. So back in was it the 90s? This guy, Serge Monast, he started digging, and then I guess into the nefarious things the government is planning and is doing. And interestingly, he ended up arrested, and he conveniently died of a heart attack the day after, which really makes you wonder, did he know something? And we know what happens when people know too much, right? They just all mysteriously die. So I think that is very telling. But Project Bluebeam is, we I know there's a view of like Project Bluebeam just being the whole hologram thing, as a means to deceive us. But Project Bluebeam is actually a 4-step project in just controlling the whole population of the earth and how you work towards it. And so let me, I have it up here. Okay. I hope I can change tabs without disappearing. So am I still there? Did I disappear? Okay. But I'm going to go read some stuff off from this. So, so Serge Monast, he was a Canadian from Quebec, and he was an investigative journalist and a conspiracy theorist. And in 1994, he published Project Bluebeam, and he detailed a four-step base operation set up by the U.S. government by way of NASA with help of the UN. Okay, anytime I see the UN, I get wary. So, and it says the operation or program was to implement a new age religion with the Antichrist at its head, and and by doing that, it'll denounce and ridicule all four major religions because they want people to fall away from it. And this is, a belief in the worship of the Antichrist. So his ideas kind of follow like biblical end times prophecy. If you believe in that, if you're into that, then this is really wild how the two things do come together. So I'll go through the steps. I'm sorry to be reading off of something. Um, and, uh, and as by having this one religion and the Antichrist at the head, this is what's going to usher in the New World Order. And if you look at what the World Economic Forum is doing, it does seem like a push to usher in the New World Order. It does seem like we're going in that direction. And then when we start looking at disclosure happening, and it seems like it's getting us ready for Project Bluebeam, one of the because okay, sorry, I'm jumping around too much, but here, let me get into the four steps of Project Bluebeam, and then it'll all start coming together. So, four steps of Project Bluebeam starts with step number 1. So they're going to manufacture sophisticated top secret weapons to cause earthquakes around the world in specific and strategic locations in order to unearth religious artifacts. And then when they have these religious artifacts, they're going to attempt to use them to disprove the religion's effectiveness. And they said that this phase has been in effect since 2012. Okay. And I find that very interesting. Oh, sorry, I got distracted. You said new statue in front of the UN. I was like, I read that as new statue in front of me, and I got creeped out. I'm like, there's nothing in front of me. So interesting, because if you believe in the biblical end times prophecy, there is talk in the Bible of the end times, that there's a ton of natural disasters happening, a ton of earthquakes, flooding, pestilence, famine, everything. So that fits in with the whole earthquake thing. And I find that interesting because they're using earthquakes, I guess, to get into certain parts of the earth to unearth religious artifacts. And then they're going to use those artifacts to deceive us. And I think, that means that they'll take the artifacts out of context and say this or that, that this, oh no. I think it's more of a taking things out of context and trying to use it against, the four major religions of the world. So that is the first step of Project Bluebeam. When we get into the second step, sorry to neglect the chat. I'll be getting back into it. So the second step of Project Bluebeam is that Serge writes that they will use sophisticated technology to beam 3D holographic images of all the prophets or heads of the four major religions: Jesus, Muhammad, Krishna, and Buddha. The images would be broadcast simultaneously in the sky around the world. And then they're going to merge these images into one in order to make all the people feel like their God is speaking directly to them. Their sole intent is to use this tactic to usher in the Antichrist and the end times. Okay. Which is interesting because I've always thought about this before I had ever heard of Project Bluebeam trying to do that with the religions. I always, as soon as I heard about Project Bluebeams and holographs, one of my first thoughts was, oh, they're going to try to fake the second coming of Christ and try to manipulate that. Because again, my faith, I do believe the second coming of Christ is real, but I feel like Project Bluebeam, if they can fake the second coming of Christ, then they can control the Christianity. If they can fake Muhammad being in the sky, then they can control Islam, and so forth and so on. So it's really, it's just constant control when you look at it. So and that's scary. Like they're going to use your faith against you to manipulate you. But that's why it's important to be awake. In the Bible, they say to test all the spirits. Meaning like when you see something and you're trying to decide whether it's of God and whether it's not of God. And I saw Denise McAllister talking about that today. She has a better explanation on her Twitter. But when you kind of judge them by what they're saying and what they're doing and by their fruits. So I would hope that, people would judge these figureheads of their faith and realize, that maybe they're not behaving in a way that goes along with their scriptures, that something's up. So then they're going to merge, them all together. And I guess that's how it comes for one religion, the Antichrist type things. So they're that actually, if you think about it, is a further priming because, okay, we've been primed with disclosure and now they're priming everybody with faith to get everybody into the same faith and believing in the same Antichrist. So is step two. So then we get into step three. So step three of Project Bluebeam is Surge writes that they will use invisible wave frequency technology via a telephonic platform to access people's minds and implant thoughts in order to gain control of the mind and make people feel like they are in direct communication with their God. So that is like similar to step two. Okay. It's still a manipulation of people's faiths and faking things so that they can bring in that one world religion and then have everybody worshiping the Antichrist. So it's through deception because, I'm sure people will worship the Antichrist willingly, but for all those people that won't worship willingly, they have to find a different way to get everybody worshiping at the foot of the Antichrist. And apparently Project Bluebeam gives that ability to deceive the masses so that they think, they're in line with their faith and worshiping their God when they're actually not. So that's their way, of gaining control by making people feel like they're in direct communication with their God. Meanwhile, they're sending false, things to your brain and it's not actually communication from God. It's what they want you to do and stuff. So then we get to step four. So step four is where I think disclosure really kind of tries to is where disclosure really connects to it. So in step five, step four. The final step in this project, where they will use their sophisticated tech to put the thought in the individual's minds that the rapture is coming and that they face an imminent alien invasion. Also, they will get a transmission into their minds that currently there are other planets being invaded and ravished. They will use a fake alien invasion to finalize the birth of their new world religion, the Antichrist arrival, and the new world order. So that's where you can see disclosure completely playing into it. So if this came out of the blue, they implanted the idea in people's minds through step four of Project Bluebeam of an alien invasion, it would kind of be out of left field, right? Because they've just been messing with the religion so far. And now they're going to throw in an alien invasion. But if you've already been priming the population all along through, let's say, government disclosure. Oh, look, there really are aliens. The government really knows. Oh, look at these videos of the aliens in the sky. And then also through discrete, programming and disclosure by constantly having it in media, let's remake War of the Worlds and let's do this and everything. You're getting it into people's minds so that by the time you get to step four of Project Bluebeam, everybody's sold on it and they believe it. And, everything's finalized and ready to go and they got their control. And it's interesting because it sounds like, how do we even have the technology? Or at least now, do we even have the technology to have holographic projections that sophisticated? Well, if you think about some of those concerts they did, like what was it? I guess Coachella, they had Michael Jackson a few years ago, but now I think they brought like young ABBA back and that they have like a holographic ABBA show. It looks really good. It doesn't look as fake as maybe like that first original Michael Jackson at Coachella hologram looked. And you know what? Also, I feel like they're not going to showcase the full extent of their holograms because then people will be suspicious of whatever they see in the sky. So we are seeing a more toned down version, but we do see that it's possible. And I had seen I can't remember, but it was something from another concert holograms being projected above this stadium at some sort of concert as part of like the visuals at a show. So, when you go to a concert, some of them have great visuals. So that was like their gimmick. And it was really good. It looked like stuff was happening in the sky. So you see that, like, we probably are at the stage where they have the tech. They just need to prime us for it and get us ready. So I believe the disclosure completely ties in to priming because they don't share anything else with us. Why are they going to share this now with their aliens? They want to keep everything close to the chest. Um, so yeah. So those are my thoughts on disclosure. Um, so let's think for a moment that all conspiracy is right and about 95% could be. What are we going to do about it? That's true. Like, because you kind of feel like you can't fight back in these situations. These people are so powerful, and most people are going to be swept away in the deception. What can you do? Um, and it's tough because, if we have a rebellion, let's say against our government, like they used to do, like, in older days or the American Revolution or whatever. Um, yes, our government's involved, but, a lot of this comes from the elites at the top. So, even if you overthrow your own government, which YouTube, I'm not don't ban me. I'm not telling anybody to do that. You still have the problem in the elites. You didn't get rid of the roaches at the top. They're still there and they're still controlling things. So it's like, how do we get to them? And I think honestly, personally, I believe the best way is just by waking people up. People have stopped thinking for themselves. People, have lost their attention spans. People don't like research and read things anymore. We've really gotten away from that. And I believe it's intentional. So I think we really need to get back to a place of waking people up. Getting rid of the fluoride stare, pulling your kids out of indoctrination facilities if you can and educating them yourself, because every kid I've met who's been homeschooled is just like can think for themselves. They haven't been squeezed into this box where they don't think anymore. So I think, education, just just being in community with other people that believe the same things as you, passing info on, kind of, even if somebody thinks you're insane, just planting the seeds. Because the more people that are awake, I think being awake is one of the best forms of resistance. You can't easily be programmed. But I hear you. It's hard to figure out what to do in those situations. So I guess, don't fall for the holograms in the sky and test all the spirits. Yeah. And you know what? We are so living in an age of deception. Doesn't the book of Revelation talk about the great deception? And I forget what the great deception refers to. I can't remember right now, but totally, you see it everywhere. I mean, you see it constantly from, our media, the government, TV. Like, there is nobody wants to give the truth anymore, because the truth is freedom and nobody wants you free. They want us as slaves. They want us as financial slaves, mental slaves, you name it. Yeah, but truly it's all deception. So that's why I believe that being awake, and being aware is one of the best forms of resistance. And it kind of has the potential to become like a chain reaction in that situation. Um, I had heard something about this, but I don't remember the statue in front of the UN. And I haven't driven by there in a while. I never like driving by the UN, it's always so sinister. But all these places like the UN, CERN, even European Parliament, there's so much like occultic imagery, so much dark things, and it's in plain sight. And I feel like it's there to mock us, saying, we know what we're doing. We're doing this, and there's nothing you all can do about it. And look, we're going to put it in plain sight, and you all are too dumb to understand what's going on. So whenever they put those statues like that, I feel like it's partially that, and I guess partially honoring whoever, whatever they believe in and are taking orders from. So you think the mark of the beast and everything else in the same book is just a control device? My apologies if you make anyone uncomfortable. Oh, no need to apologize. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Personally, that is my faith. Like I say, that's the lens I view things through. And I feel like a lot of what's going on does fall into this, and everything is kind of connecting to this. Like a lot of it's coming true. So that's why I like to look at it through that lens. Like to me, that's where everything clicks and makes sense. So there are 2 more statues at UN headquarters in New York, which appear to have a link to the Book of Revelation by Michael Snyder for the Economic Collapse blog. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. And you know what? And I think it's interesting because I think the UN is part of what is going to carry out that New World Order and the end times, that it's all linked together. So it's so appropriate that it would be out there. And even doesn't CERN have a statue outside that's like one of the Hindu gods, and it's like a god of like destruction or death or something? It's been a long time since I've studied world religions, but I forget, is it Krishna? But they have, it's all, I'm like, can't they just enjoy like normal art? Does everything have to be so dark? And it's constant. It's everywhere. Even if you look at the art in the Denver airport. So that's why I think it's out there to mock us and to kind of honor and worship whatever it is that they believe in. But no, I totally think like, yeah, it's part of a mockery. Like, haha, you guys are going through this airport and look, we have art about your common folk, your destruction up there. So that's, yeah. Okay, I'll have to, here, let me search it right now. Okay. Statue outside the UN. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm looking at the right one. The one that kind of looks like a tiger with wings. Yeah, I mean that's not normal. That's not normal art. And what is art? Art is subjective or whatever, whatever it is they say. But I don't know, man. Past the point, like, how do they excuse any of this? What are they making up? And who is paying for and commissioning this art? Like, who is the person at the top? But I guess they're all involved. It's probably like just one big cult. Okay, the Guardian of Peace is what it's called. So then I was looking at the right one. Guardian of Peace. Yeah, like the UN is a guardian of peace. All that chaos they cause. But that's why I feel like they're mocking us. They want us to think they're the big peacemakers, but they're not. Oh, I forgot to plug in my I don't know where my charger is. Let me make sure, see how much. I got 11%. I should be good for a little while. Maybe we can make it to an hour. But so what are you guys' thoughts on disclosure and Project Bluebeam and all that? Any feelings on that? Do you think we're close to it? Do you think this is something far off? Or do you think it's just crazy conspiracy theory? I mean, do you believe anything they disclose? Like if they come out and say, oh, yep, aliens have been taking people and probing people, would you believe it? Or would you be like, oh, shoot, they're getting us ready to be probed? I don't know. But I also had another thought. And it's interesting because if we look at UFOs through a perspective, like creatures from the outer edge perspective, so the creatures from, sorry, I'm getting distracted by this low battery alert now. I'm trying to remember where I put my charger, but I don't want to stand up because I'm in shorts. Okay, we're good for now. Okay, so to me, so Creatures from the Outer Edge is a book that posits that a lot of like cryptid animals, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, whatever, do not exist on our plane, our dimensional plane. That they're interdimensional creatures, and we never find like leftover bodies, or we can't capture them physically on our cameras because they just are popping into and out of our reality, and they don't actually like literally exist here. They're just kind of visiting, kind of like on Skinwalker Ranch, where they see like these doorways that these creatures are coming in and out of. Something interdimensional, is happening, and that there's no evidence of them. So, and if you so that's creatures from the outer edge. That's its theory on cryptids. But if you apply that to UFOs and UAPs, by that same by that same idea, we'll never see any type of physical evidence of UFOs. We're not maybe Roswell was something else. Let's say, maybe Roswell was some sort of other tech. But if UFOs are interdimensional and they're just popping in and out, we're never going to see any physical evidence of it. So when the government wants to come out and disclose and say, yes, we do have evidence and we do know what's going on and we have pictures and videos, and this, it makes me suspicious because, I do kind of subscribe to that interdimensional view. I'm like, if these things are interdimensional and have so much better tech than us, they're not going to leave behind evidence of themselves. So I feel like whatever evidence that the government does come up with is falsified and fake, just to make us think that that they're able to prove it or whatever. But that was just a little tangent that I'm going on. So Keenan Bridges' streams are nice to follow. He talks about this on a regular basis. Okay, cool. Keenan Bridges. I'm glad people are, awake and talking about this, and not to say, oh, look, I'm the only person that's awake and I'm glad other people are doing it. No, I don't mean it like that. But I mean, like, I am glad that somebody who has an easy to follow stream and is talking about this often, versus my brain chaos that I'm just spilling out onto the screen. So, oh, cool. So I'll definitely have to check out his work. Thank you for that suggestion. And yes, I agree. Something is coming and it's not good. It does not feel right. And we are just I feel like at every corner, primed and being made ready for certain things. And our behavior has been changing, and they've been able to change our behavior by making certain rules and everything. And look here, we're going to feed you this info. And then, oh, look, let's get you used to lockdowns so that way we can fake an alien invasion and lock you down in your house. So everything just feels put together for something big coming. And I want to get back into the what's ahead streams, because I think it's really nice to talk about what's coming and how we can be prepared for it. Because it's dark, and I believe it's meant to hurt us some, in whatever way possible. And the way to kind of rebel against that is to be ready and to be aware and to make other people aware of what's going on. So, alrighty. I think that covers it. It was kind of all over the place, but it was fun to chat about this with you guys. Any other thoughts? Or maybe we'll cut it early tonight. But so oh yeah, so so I'd spoken a little bit about this last week, but I've talked about how this stream is kind of, I'm kind of all over the place. I don't always have a cohesive thought. I feel like it's kind of a place to just try on some theories for size, discuss things back and forth, just throw some ideas out there to think out loud, and I know I'm kind of disorganized with it. So this is the last weekend in June. So for July, I want to bring in some more structure for you guys, some more research, because June's been crazy, but I should have some more time to do that so stick with me till July. If you're kind of like, Ashley, what's going on here? You're kind of all over the place. Just stick with me. I want to get some interviews happening for July. I'm going to have some more well-researched shows, but thanks for bearing with me so far and just being willing to talk about this, because you know what, it's so important to be in community in so many different ways, and being able to bounce ideas that maybe most people would not understand, and being able to bounce them off each other is so important. And I feel like, and it's important for expanding your minds and ideas and stuff, but also like just learning. We all learn from each other, and you guys have presented so many ideas and things I've never considered. So thank you. Like I say, I know I say this every week, thank you, but thank you for being here. I really do enjoying being here with you all. So to your own acknowledgement, there is a solution to the hypercube dilemma, and it may have more to do with faith, love, and our intentions for the future. Oh, hypercube. This sounds familiar to me. I'm not familiar with the hypercube. Um, so to the hypercube dilemma, I'm gonna look it up. I got 7%, so I still am good. Let me see. Hypercube. I can't believe I didn't charge my thing. Let me see. What is the hypercube? Hypercube. Okay, so hypercube would be like, um, would that be our multiple dimensions that we're in? So hypercube dilemma. Oh, I like that I can go into a different tab and it doesn't shut it down. I know, which is silly. Why would it shut it down? But I was always paranoid about that. I can't get any info on that. But so, Tomas, where can we look more into the whole hypercube thing? If one of us, if somebody wanted to research, is YouTube a good place? Because now I'm intrigued because I know there's a movie called Hypercube, but yeah, okay, that's cool. And it's interesting that it has to do with faith, love, and our intentions for the future. It shows how much of an impact those things have. And you know what? We are surrounded by so much negativity and hate, especially right now, as we've seen like this whole Supreme Court thing happening. You know, it's kind of like that fear matrix, like that, the system that we live in and whatever evil is going on thrives off of fear, and they're constantly fear mongering us and making us fearful and trying to put all this negativity to us because they feed off of it. These dark people, these dark forces feed off of our fear and our negativity. So it's interesting that that you would say, that the solution to the hypercube dilemma is, like I said, faith, like you said, faith, love, and our intentions, because it really shows the power of that, the power we give away when we fear, and that we don't fear and we're positive like this, that we're taking back control and we're actually changing things and changing the world. So I'm intrigued. Thank you so much. So I guess I'll end it here. Kind of a shorter show tonight. Now I'm wondering, should we talk about CERN next week? I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I am or not. But I would encourage you to look into CERN and what CERN is doing and the fact that they're starting back up again on July 5th. Because, initially when CERN started, okay, sorry, let me just, okay. So initially when CERN started, it was, getting distracted by the chat. I'll hop back to the chat in a minute. So when CERN started, people were afraid. They're like, with the super collider, we don't know what kind of effect this would have, if this opens black holes, if this will cause, issues with the time space continuum or whatever. People were really worried. People were like, you're going to destroy the world if you let CERN happen. And then, CERN went on, nothing happened. Supposedly, some people do think we were transported into a parallel universe that is problematic. I don't buy that. But because it's connected to so many things like that. And when they opened up CERN, they had like a bunch of occultic rituals celebrating. The fact that they're doing it again and doing it at higher velocities, I'm like, and then the talk of them trying to open up portals and whatever kind of starts to make sense, especially when you look at it in an occultic context. So, and it's wild to step away from it and be like, this thing that, oh, did my computer just shut off? I just went frozen. Oh, come on. Hold on. My computer just froze. I don't know if you guys can still see me. Oh, there, I'm back. Okay. Hold on a second. I am going to go grab my charger because I don't want to leave yet. But I'm just going to pull myself off for a second. So, you don't see the rest of my pajamas. But don't leave. I will be right back on. All right, I'm back. I lost one of my lights in the process, but it's good. We still have enough lighting. All righty. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people believe that everything that's going on was CERN opening up some sort of dark portal. And you know what I do? I am starting to believe that portals are a real thing. Um, so do you remember that Gothard base tunnel ceremony? That was creepy. Gothard base. It sounds familiar. But you know what? Now I feel like there's been so many ceremonies. Like we're seeing more and more of this stuff online as people are waking up. Now, Gothard base. Where is Gothard base? Let me look that up. Gothard base tunnel ceremony. Let's see. Gothard base tunnel. Okay, Switzerland. Oh, so that's near CERN, right? Oh no, it's that world's longest railway tunnel. Oh, okay. So I'm not familiar with that ceremony, but there they go. What is with these constant occultic ceremonies? There's something up with it. It's like, are they honoring whatever god that they're serving or worshiping, with all this creepy stuff they're doing? But I love that everybody just ignores it and acts like it's normal. It's not normal. But yeah, I know, right? It's creepy. CERN, yeah. Having issues. Yeah, I've never it's funny when you talk about certain things and then weird things happen. It's like, did I talk about the wrong thing? Um, okay, so thank you for answering the hypercube answer. So matrix algorithms and the idea that we're all in a simulation with the ability or opportunity to find freedom from a collapsing reality. Interesting. Okay, so that would be okay, the hypercube dilemma. Okay. Which is also interesting because in kind of the same idea, there's that whole moon matrix theory that the moon is there is actually an object from whatever, an alien civilization, and it's there controlling our thoughts and putting us into a type of thought matrix. And it feeds off negativity and fear, and you can get out of that moon thought matrix by love, intentions, and everything else. So I've heard about it in the moon context, and like I think I had mentioned it in a past thing. I was in Barnes and Nobles once, and I read this. And I don't know. Again, I don't know that I subscribe to all of this, but it was an interesting idea to to entertain, especially when we think about like that the moon sometimes doesn't appear in a lot of like ancient mythology. And a lot of ancient mythology talks about the moon appearing one day, and then one time when they bombed the moon, um, in the experiments they did on the moon back in the day, they set off a little bit of a bomb, and the vibrations that came off the moon didn't make sense because it made the moon seem like it was metallic and on some sort of springs. Like, it's odd when you start digging into that theory. And so like I found this book and I was just sitting there like paging through it. And I never was able to find that moon book again. But it was like one of the, like this mind-blowing experience on the floor in Barnes and Noble. Um so so yeah. So should we leave it at that? Like, my brain is out of things to talk about. Right as I find my charger. So alrighty. Yeah, let's all look into CERN this week. CERN. Nobody's concerned about CERN. All right, guys. Well, you have a nice night. Thank you for being here today. And I'll see you next week. And yeah, DM me if you have any topic ideas, if you want to be on here, if you have certain guest suggestions. I am open to whatever. And then hopefully be getting more back into regular streaming with what's ahead. I want to get back into the interview series. And I actually, because this was originally a crypto channel, I want to talk some hex and pulse chain with you guys too. Yeah, well, good vibes. All right. Good vibes are always good. Whether we believe in those theories or not, there's nothing bad that could come out of good vibes. It's always good to be positive because in such a dark, negative, angry world, somebody has to be the light. You got to be the light because you never know how it'll change somebody's day, how it'll change things, how it'll affect everything around you. Can you imagine if the whole world was just happy and good vibes? Like all this, it wouldn't work too well for the elites. So yeah, so good vibes always. You guys have a good vibe week, and bring the positivity. Let's get us out of this fear matrix we're in. And thank you so much for saying that. I felt like I was all over the place, but thank you guys. Thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate it. And I really enjoyed bouncing these ideas back and forth with you guys. So you all have a good night, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.